Knee mount is a really interesting position. It doesn't really have much of an analog in other competitive grappling arts like judo or sambo or freestyle wrestling, but you do see it in old jiu-jitsu manuals. So maybe those guys way back then knew something that we don't today. But Brazilian jiu-jitsu uses it a fair bit. It's a double-edged sword. I'm going to be fairly high here. My center of gravity is higher and is less stable than the other pinning positions where I've got a lot of body-to-body contact. On the other hand, I'm putting a ton of pressure onto him. It's hard for him to breathe, and maybe he'll do something stupid and give me the submission. So that's typically how it's used, to put pressure on your opponent, to make him do something stupid, or as a transition to another position like mount. It's also worth noting that from a self-defense point of view, this is a really good position. If I'm here, I'm pinning him, I'm controlling his arm so he can't hit me in the groin, I'm making his life miserable, and I see 3 of his friends coming, I can disengage and run away pretty fast. Whereas if I went to another position that might even be better, like, I don't know, let's say rear mount here. I'm here, I'm in rear mount, I've almost got the choke, I've almost got him unconscious, and 3 of his friends come, and now he drives his weight back on top of me. It could take me a couple of seconds to disengage from here. You know, it would be an added step before I could bolt and run. So from a self-defense point of view, I think knee mount is really useful. Also, from an MMA point of view, this is probably the most powerful way that you can hit your opponent. Even more powerful than in mount, which we'll get to in a second. You can really drop a ton of weight down because you're so upright. So it's a very powerful position for putting weight onto your opponent and for hitting, and useful in a self-defense context too. So let's look at some of the variables in knee mount. Some people call it knee on belly, and that's exactly what it is. You're taking your knee, you're putting it on the guy's belly. Where exactly does it go? On the belly is one good place, but you can also put it on the solar plex, and that makes it a bit harder for the guy to breathe. And if you want to be real mean, and if you've got a good grip, you can put it on the sternum. Be careful when you do that. You can break the ribs where they attach into the sternum, so save that one for somebody that you really don't like. The other place where you can put your knee and your shin is right across his hips, not high, but low. The reason you might go here is supposing you're going high and the guy's got really flexible legs and he's always bringing them up and he's always harassing you with them. If I put my shin across the line of his hips here, like this, it makes it a lot more difficult for him to bring his legs up into play, especially once I start bending him towards me here. That's what your knee is doing. What a lot of people miss is what this foot is doing. If I'm here and putting all my weight on my ball of the foot, there's no weight going on to Don. He can still talk fairly normally. Go through the ABCDs. ABCD.
ABCD.
Go ahead.
ABC.
Go ahead.
ABC.
See, as I lift this foot off the ground, it becomes harder and harder for him to talk. So you can either lift that off the ground or wrap it around his buttocks here. That cuts down on some of the other room that he can use to escape. Now, the single biggest 2 mistakes that people make when they're doing knee mount, come back here please, is they'll stay down on this top knee. Turn a bit more. They're trying to do a knee mount like this. Generally speaking, this is not knee mount. This foot has to be up. This foot has to be up and bent, and this foot floats around to adjust to his weight. This is mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 also has to do with this leg. There's way too much weight on this leg. Again, I want 90% of my body weight, so I'm 200 pounds, I want about 180 pounds of that going onto him through my knee. I want it to be difficult for him to talk. ABCD?
ABCD.
Right. If I've got all my weight on this foot here,
ABC.
he can talk, no problem. And also that makes this foot heavy and difficult to adjust. Whereas if most of the weight's on here, I can float here. I can float and I can adjust. So this is a tough one to demo, and I really appreciate Don taking this abuse. That's what the legs are doing. The hands, there's different possibilities. The classic one is grabbing the sleeve and grabbing the collar, here and here, there. I pull him up, which does 2 things. It bends him, makes it harder for him to escape, and it increases the amount of weight that goes down onto him. The harder I pull, the more weight he has to take. So collar and sleeve, and I'm going to do it incorrectly here so that he doesn't take too much weight. Another common one is shoulder and knee here. And again, I'm trying to turn him into a banana. In no-gi, this is a fairly common variation of knee mount. Because of course you don't have the pants and the lapel to grip onto. Come under the head, come under the arm, put the knee on the belly, and then post up like this. Here. Your body isn't as upright as it normally is, but you're still putting a lot of pressure onto it.